So, thanks to some recently released court documents, we've learned that multiple of the accused rioters from the January 6th insurrection attempt tried to use the legal defense. Donald Trump made me do it. Now, they tried, but at least so far it's been unsuccessful because a court said no way. And in fact, one of the people who tried this is that guy known as the QAnon shaman, Jacob Chansley, who was photographed in the House chamber wearing like a Viking hat of some kind. And his lawyer was actually making the case that what Jacob Chansley did would not have happened were it not for the words and the actions of President Donald Trump. His lawyer said, if it weren't for Trump, my client, Your Honor, would never even have been in Washington, D.C. in support of the president. And were it not for the specific words of the then president on January 6th saying, we're going to march down Pennsylvania Avenue or whatever, the defendant would not have walked down Pennsylvania Avenue and would never have gone near, never mind inside the U.S. Capitol building, saying my client did it because Donald Trump told him to. This was part of his lawyer trying to get him out on bail instead of having him stay in pretrial detention. And his lawyer argued he's not dangerous. He wasn't even sincerely there due to his own beliefs. It was just because of Trump. Trump made him do it. And the judge in the case, Royce Lamberth, said, quote, even taking defendant's claim at face value, it does not persuade the court that the defendant would not pose a danger to others if released. If the defendant truly believes that the only reason he participated in an assault on the U.S. Capitol was to comply with President Trump's orders, this shows the defendant's inability or refusal to exercise his independent judgment and conform his behavior to the law. In other words, the judge is saying, if Trump really convinced him to do it, it's still on him. And that doesn't tell me if I release him, he won't be a threat, because someone else could convince him to do something just as dangerous or stupid. Whether he believes Trump wants him to do it has nothing to do with whether his actions conform with the law. And you might remember the other version of this that we talked about, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. A defendant's lawyer in another one of these rioters' lawyers claimed that the accused was suffering from, quote, Fox-itis and, quote, Fox mania, and that it is Fox News rather than Donald Trump that are to blame. Now, big picture, this is not a valid legal excuse. Answering someone else's call to break the law doesn't make it irrelevant that you still broke the law. But there are cases when if someone was really manipulated or forced into breaking the law, I mean, in a way, I'm not comparing Trump to Charles Manson, but when you look at the Charles Manson case, Charles Manson, if I recall correctly, I mean, this is just occurring to me now. If I recall correctly, Charles Manson himself did not actually kill anyone, but he directed others to do it. And yet he was found legally guilty because he brainwashed, manipulated others, etc. There are circumstances where if you were really manipulated or forced into breaking the law, and forced into breaking the law is an even different thing, courts can consider that. And it can impact guilt versus innocence, and it can impact sentencing. But under federal statutes in this particular situation, the law wouldn't see the Trump defense as a valid defense. It wouldn't see Fox-itis and Fox mania as valid defenses. Just because a nutty, childish clown tells you to do something, even if that someone is the president, does not make it a valid legal defense, particularly when you are dealing with these specific federal statutes. But this is sort of a version of stochastic terrorism. As I've said before, it's really hard to hold people accountable for that. But if you have a large enough audience, remember Glenn Beck, when he used to have, I think it was a Fox News or CNN show, Glenn Beck ranting about the Tides Foundation, which he became obsessed with every day. Statistically, someone in his audience is going to hear that and say, I'm going to go and do something about the Tides Foundation. And case in point, there was a guy arrested by California Highway Patrol driving to the Tides Foundation to do who the hell knows what. With a large enough audience, when you start saying someone should do X, and if only someone did Y, the likelihood that at least one person, in this case hundreds or thousands of people, will try to do it goes up and up and up. It's kind of like a silly version of the Nuremberg defense. The difference being None of these people are in the chain of command. The Trump rioters were not in the chain of command where you could even say I was following orders in a sense. There were no risks or punishments if you just stayed the hell home. If the QAnon shaman said, you know what, instead of going to DC, I'll stay at home, no one was going to punish him for that. There was not going to be any risk to doing that. He would have been fine. And so that also furthers the reason why it's not a particularly good defense. Now, even if it doesn't make a difference for these specific people, the funny or maybe the ironic thing in people pointing to Trump as the reason why they did this could be something that comes up in a Justice Department investigation or a House congressional investigation into Trump's role. But I don't expect that will go very far, at least at holding Donald Trump accountable. The other possibility is that while claiming Trump made me do it might make no difference in their criminal trials, civil trials are a whole different thing. And one lawyer wrote to me and said, the Trump made me do it defense could be something that plays a role in a civil trial if there were to be one. Last thought. It is not beyond me the irony of people who claim to represent a political ideology that preaches and values and prioritizes personal responsibility, who then get charged with crimes that they did and immediately claim as their defenses, Fox News convinced me or Trump made me do it. It's pitiful. It's pitiful and pathetic. And it is again a reminder that their stated values and principles are merely stated. They are not really sincerely held values and principles. They abandon them instantly when it's no longer convenient.